What's going on, guys? Venatix here. Welcome back to the channel. I'm super excited to have made this video for you guys because I can understand that knowing all the different types of enemies, the Archaeans and other types that are going to be in this game is very important to know. We want to have as much knowledge as possible going into this co-op tactical shooter because the more we know about the enemy, the easier it's going to be for us to win or get higher ranked in the Maelstrom Protocol difficulty mode. But with that being said, let's jump in and talk about all of the enemy Archaean types. At this moment, and what they have advertised is there are 13 different type of enemy variants. Let's start off with the number one of the base enemies. They are called Grunts, and they're called them tier 1. They actually break some of these up into tiers and others not into tiers. So I'm not exactly sure the tier system here, but just think of it as like level 1, 2, 3. The higher you go, the more difficult the enemy is. So at tier 1, we have a Grunt, which is compared to the initial Outbreak. If you play the Rainbow Six Siege Outbreak limited time mode, Grunts have evolved significantly and bear little resemblance to their former appearance prior to infection. They pretty much just run at you and melee you. If you look at their arms, they're kind of like blades. They're going to be kind of sharp and they just damage you. There are definitely lots of them, but it looks like one headshot will kill them. You can also assassinate the Grunts. You can sneak up to them. They will be idle or just kind of roaming around, and if you don't alert them, you can one-tap them in the head with a silenced weapon, or again, like I said, you can assassinate them in the back with your react blade. Moving on to the second enemy here, we have a Rooter. Rooters are considered tier 2 enemies. When they are provoked, they are able to pin players down who stand directly in front of them. So they kind of send like these spikes in the ground in the sprawl, the sludge. Send spikes and will root you in place for a few seconds. I'm not exactly sure the time of that and how you can get out of it. Either probably by stunning the enemy or killing it will stop it. Otherwise, you're kind of sitting there for a little bit, kind of stuck. That's what the Rooter does. The third enemy that we have is called the Breacher. Similar to Grunts, Breachers can be found on the field undisturbed, kind of just hanging out, sleeping. You can sneak up on them and assassinate them, etc. But they will immediately attack the operators if alerted. They have a red back and can explode and can also be assassinated, as I mentioned before. Meleeing Breachers when they are about to explode delays the explosion while stunning the Breacher, giving the operator time to escape the blast. Now, I'm not 100% sure on that, if that is related to the Outbreak game mode back in Rainbow Six Siege, or if that's actual new information for Rainbow Six Extraction. We've only seen so much gameplay, and no one has really broken down everything, and I'm trying my best to do that for you guys here. So take that with a grain of salt, but it sounds like that's probably going to be something implemented because, I mean, once they're set to explode, if they're on top of you, what else can you do? You just die. So hopefully you do get the opportunity to melee them, to kind of stun them, allowing you to kind of escape and then blow them up. Now, next we have the Bloater. Bloaters are actually very similar to the Breachers. They actually look practically the same. However, instead of having like a big red back, they have a green back. They also rush players and can detonate on contact, but instead of just one explosion, they actually explode and spew out toxic gas, which gradually inflicts damage over time to the operators in play. So it kind of like an AoE effect of gas, and you don't want to necessarily go through it as it'll blur your vision and do damage to you. Next up, we have a Spiker, which is considered a tier 2 Archaean. These offer some sort of the only ranged opposition to players in Extraction that we've seen so far. The trick, at least that we know, just like the Rooters, is to get behind them. Unlike the Rooters, though, the Spikers can move while blasting away, aka they can shoot and move at the same time, these projectiles out of their hands. So as we see in the trailer, the strategy for them seems to be distract them or to focus on someone else with abilities or weapons while going ahead and taking them out from behind. I do think that, consider that they are tier 2, they're not that tanky, and you can shoot them in the head enough pretty quickly to kill them as well. Now we have the Smasher, which is kind of like the tank. Smashers are an all-around protected except for a weak spot in the form of a red glowing spot on their back. Although gunfire to the wound will damage the Smasher bit by bit, it is more effective to melee it through the backstab takedowns. This can be done by provoking the Smashers with noise such as gunshots or explosive into a wall or obstacle, stunning and making them become vulnerable. Be aware though, unreinforced walls do not count, as Smashers will run through them with ease. It's possible, like in the limited game mode Outbreak back in Rainbow Six Siege, it would take multiple backstabs to kill, but from what I've seen in Rainbow Six Extraction gameplay is that it only took one backstab, but that could be after it had already been shot in the back numerous times. I'm not sure if there will be an obvious indicator for that, or if you will be able to assassinate it right away in the back if you're able to dodge its charge. Next up, we have Lurkers. Lurkers are considered a tier 3 Archaean. Now, again, as I mentioned before, there's different tiers, but they didn't mention what tier the Smasher is or tier the like Bloaters are and stuff like that. But the Lurkers are tier 3, and they are capable of making themselves and other enemies invisible. And they have a weak spot, which is their head. I mean, it's kind of obvious, right? The red head. But they're able to actually protect their head by covering themselves, making them harder to kill. So not only are they kind of a pain to kill. They also can go invisible, make other people invisible. It's kind of like in a support enemy, if you will. Kind of a cool concept. Next we have the Sower or Sower. They are capable of planting traps, which will produce a blinding effect if activated. So this kind of goes hand in hand with another enemy type or type of variant, which is called the blinding spores, which will temporarily blind affected players. Now I believe that goes hand in hand with each other there, but they're technically separate. They're like little orange or little yellow balls that can be hit onto the operator itself, blinding them and not allowing them to be able to aim down the sight. Now Tormentors are a tier 4 Archaean, and they can shapeshift into Sprawl. Basically, they can like disappear into the ground, move quickly, and are able to shoot projectiles, and especially a large one that can actually hone in onto you. They can follow you around corners and stuff like that, so you gotta be very careful with those. But luckily, we do have some like react walls that we can place that will reflect those or block those projectiles, and then we can shoot through the wall as well. So keep that in mind. Definitely, this game is going to be a little more tactical than your running gun in this. We're going to be trying to go slow, methodical, getting headshots and assassinating as much as possible because you can get overwhelmed very easily. Now we do have what I believe is a tier 4. It's like the mother of all enemies. It's called the Apex. The Apex fight from the back line as they summon grunts and breezers, or like a summoner, necromancer kind of. From a distance, they will shoot blinding projectiles that block vision and prevent aiming down sights. And if an operator gets too close to an Apex, the Apex will knock them away a good distance. So I'm not sure if you can actually assassinate an Apex, if it'll just knock you back no matter what, or maybe you still can. I haven't seen any gameplay showing an assassination on an Apex, so my guess is probably no. But you never know, maybe you can stun it with a concussive blast, or maybe with a sledgehammer or stuff like that from Sledge, and maybe you can stun it and assassinate. That would actually be a cool concept, but also maybe be too easy. I'm not sure. We'll have to know more about that. And I am curious to see, does the Apex blind projectiles count as blinding spores? As in, it blinds you, but then it sticks onto your operator. I'm not sure. And then we have Sludge. So you know we have the Sprawl, which is the goopy stuff on the ground. There's also Sludge. It's a massive bioorganic matter produced by the Archaeans. While similar to Sprawl, it is commonly found on ceilings and will break apart if fired upon while it approaches the player. There's also a green Sprawl Sludge mutation that can do damage to you that I've seen other players play when they had the early access. The Sprawl was usually like a blackish color, like a blackish, maybe a tint of red. But then sometimes there's a green Sprawl, and apparently that does damage to you or slows you even more. I'm not exactly sure. It was a different type of mutation. Now, I've also seen other things that are in the ground, like these little, like red, I don't know, like little red gloops of stuff that are on the ground that can like do damage to you as well. All you have to do is like shoot them once or twice, and it goes away. So I'm not exactly sure what those are called, but very interesting nonetheless. And then the last thing on the list here, so we have a total of 13 that we know of and what they're advertising. So we do know that there should be more, but this upcoming and last is the hardest difficulty there is, or hardest enemy is the Proteans. They shapeshift and appear like other React operators, having their skill set and gadgets with them. They're the ultimate challenge in the game, even more dangerous than the Apex. Appearing in the deepest level of a containment zone known as the Singularity, Protean variants mimic the appearances and abilities of React operators. They feature a large health pool and can deal massive amounts of damage to players. Now, we've actually seen some of that here. I think, to my understanding, you get that more towards the end of the Maelstrom Protocol, or different types of events that will happen within Rainbow Six Extraction. And these guys are supposed to be really, really tough. I mean, imagine playing against a Sledge against you, but with like overtuned abilities and stuff like that. So definitely going to require some teamwork there and trying to figure this all out. Let me know what you guys think. Rainbow Six Extraction comes out really, really soon. Make sure to check out my other videos if you're interested in the game to know more, and we'll be live streaming when the game comes out, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.